Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, folks, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. We've covered a lot of ground today, but I want to finish this show today with talking about what I think is really important for you to consider if you're going to sell your house right now. And first, let me say this. There's still a lot of demand to buy in our specific market, especially when you compare it to other markets in other sections of the country. I mean, for those that listen to this program know that not only do I, help people buy and sell real estate and run a real estate team and property management company, and I've got a private money lending company, but I'm also a real estate coach to some other agents kind of like me in other parts of the country that really need to apply some business acumen to their business and run their business like a business to grow and scale it, so on and so forth. And I know that other agents in other parts of the country are hurting. It's a nationwide issue right now. And when it comes to selling a house, there is still plenty of demand, which we locally benefit from because so many people are still moving to the Southeast. And I don't see those migration patterns changing all that much in the very near future. But at some point, and I don't know when, that's going to start to cool down. It's going to cool off, right? In fact, I think the bulk of those moves are already behind us because remember, as of a few years ago, employers said, all right, you don't need to come into the office anymore. You know, you can work from wherever you'd like to. You're now a virtual employee. And so a lot of people said, well, all right, if that's the case, I'm sick of paying $3,000 a month for my 900 square foot apartment here in New York. I'm going to South Carolina. And so we obviously benefited from that, and we still continue to benefit from that. But as I mentioned last segment, we're starting to see inventory creep up. We're starting to see price reductions increase. We've got a lot of people that are competing with new construction communities that are offering massive incentives to buyers that they just are having a real tough time matching. And so it's not as easy to sell as it once was. It's still easier in comparison to like a normal market or a buyer market because of some of this spillover demand that we have. But the tide is turning. You can just feel it. I hear it every day in the agents that I talk to. The numbers are starting to show it. And the real challenge that I think we need to sometimes take a step back and realize is that real estate's a lagging indicator of the economy. It's the biggest contributor to inflation, but it's a lagging indicator of the economy. So we're not really going to feel, quote unquote, the effects, at least on paper, for 6 to 12 months after whatever happens. So the fact that we're starting to see it now means that maybe the top of the market's likely behind us. We might still have some appreciation runs in some areas of the market, but in most instances, it's flat. In other words, when we're looking at comparables, when we go on a listing appointment, when the seller says, hey, I'd like to sell my house, we'd like to have you come over and present a plan to help us sell our home for the most money possible or sell it in the quickest amount of time possible, whatever it is the seller's trying to accomplish, and we're doing our research. What has changed, a big fundamental change, is instead of looking at comparable sales and saying, all right, well, we know that properties are appreciating at X percentage, right? So when something sold 6 months ago, we now need to determine what that house would have sold for today, right? So we're inflating the sales price of recently comparable sales to catch them up to the market now. Well, now we're looking at comparable sales and we're saying, all right, if this is what it sold for a few months ago, this is likely what it's still going to sell for today. There's a little bit of a sliding scale there, right? I don't believe in absolutes because real estate is it is a location-driven market. Your neighborhood could be different from the neighborhood right next to you. Mount Pleasant's different from West Ashley. It's different from Somerville. It's different from Pinopolis. I mean, you have to be truly engaged in the data in that specific section of our market to understand what's happening there. Real estate is local. It's hyper-local. So when you're selling a house right now, a big mistake that I see agents making is just inaccurately pricing the property. Now, that could be because the agent just doesn't have the experience, the transactional experience. Could be that they're not familiar with that market. It could be that they're just telling the seller what they think that seller wants to hear, because any agent that can get a listing, that is gold to them, right? The last thing you want is an agent that's just going to tell you what you want to hear, to have the opportunity to now market your home for sale and generate other sales from your property, regardless of whether your home sells or not. It is one of the major issues that we have had, and it's not like it's a new thing. It's been around for a long, long, long time. And in our industry, we call it buying a listing. When an agent tells the seller what the seller wants to hear, because from the agent's perspective, they now have a sign in the ground that's going to generate calls. They now have a marketing opportunity that's going to generate calls. And as tough as it might be to hear, the truth is, and this is what we talk about on this show, the truth is they might not care whether your home sells or not, because they're going to use it to find other people that they can help that hopefully might be more realistic on their price. I don't know. But that's the reality. And that's probably a tough thing for you listening to hear right now, but that's just the truth. And it's unfortunate, but it happens. So let's be real about it. Now, obviously, you hope that the agent that you hire not only knows how to effectively price a property, but is, integrity based and is going to tell you the truth, even if that means not getting your listing. And I think that's such a big differentiator, between agents with experience, maybe those without, because a lot of people that need to sell a home to pay their bills are going to treat it like a sales job. So just be careful of that. When you sell your house, you should sit down with that agent, and they should. Here's how I do it, because I don't believe in bringing in like a packet of, comps with a predetermined price and just hand it off and say, yeah, your price per square foot's in your neighborhood, or, $250 a square foot. You're a little nicer than what the average home in your neighborhood is, so we're going to do $270 a square foot. It's like they're pulling numbers out of the sky. It's a very lazy way of valuing real estate. What should be done, and how I do it, is I sit down with folks and I say, all right, here are the most comparable sales. Let's look at each one, and let's look at how an appraiser would make adjustments to these properties based on when they sold, where they are, the condition, upgrades, materials, and concessions associated with the sale. You as a seller aren't going to have that kind of information. And if you're going off of Zillow and their Zestimate, then, good luck to you, because, and I've said this for so long, but Zillow doesn't know anything about the condition of your home. If you bought the home 10 years ago, like I did when I bought my house, and then you do a massive renovation and you put a ton of money into it, Zillow doesn't know that. And there's not really a way to let them know that. So they've got this really fancy algorithm, which has really just done nothing more than create a way for Zillow to dominate the lead generation space, because they're now a brokerage. But it's full of inaccurate data. Like the system in and of itself is never going to give you accurate information, because the information they pull in and of itself is not complete. So if you want to know how much your home is worth, the best way to do it for free is to talk to a real estate agent. Now, if you want to get something on paper that you can really hang your hat on, then an appraiser can give you an appraisal. But in most instances, that's just not necessary. So if you're going to sell a house right now, I think that, aside from marketing, which we're going to talk about next show, and experience and the incentives and some of the other things we've talked about today, it's incredibly important that you work with a real estate agent that understands how to value a piece of real estate. Because in this market, which is a little different, of course, than what we're used to over the past few years, if your home stays on the market for a while, it's like blood in the water, right? The sharks come, you're going to start getting lower offers. You want to try and avoid that. And the way you do that, of course, is by pricing the home correctly. Now, at the same time, I will just say before we go that there are some markets with limited comparable sales that provide you as a seller with the ability to kind of push the envelope on pricing. And if you have the ability to ask maybe a little bit more and kind of set a new bar for what homes are worth in your area, go for it. More power to you. But be careful. Hire the right agent for you. And if you'd like to discuss that in greater detail, my number, 843-800 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065, or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. You guys enjoy your weekend. Thanks for listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-888-0065. That's 843-888-0065.